The month of Av speaks of judgment. And so from 1900 to 1950 roughly was a generation of judgment with World War I, World War II. The next 50 years represent the next biblical month, which is going to be the month of Elul, which speaks of the month of return. And what do we see happens? Jerusalem is returned to Israel. Israel becomes a nation. The next month, which represents from roughly 2000 to 2050, is the month of Tishri. What does the month of Tishri represent? It represents the fall feasts. It represents the tribulation, the Feast of Trumpets. It represents Yom Kippur, Israel being atoned for. It represents the Feast of Tabernacles, where the Lord will reign and tabernacle among men for the 1,000 years. So I firmly believe on God's time clock, as far as being a few minutes till midnight. We are so there. We are in the generation that will see the coming of the Messiah. I am concerned for all of you who are watching this, who find this to be brand new material, because the thing I'm trying to focus on is the importance of being on God's biblical calendar. There are some people that are out there that totally reject the Jewish calendar. They call it rabbinic. It really comes from very anti-Semitic is how it comes across. They don't want anything to do with anything Jewish. Well, this is what happened at the very beginning with the early church. Where did the calendar come from that the Jews use today? The head of the Jewish Sanhedrin, before the Sanhedrin was disbanded, his name was Hillel II. Christianity, that had been coming into strong existence in the 300s, had told the Jewish nation they could no longer keep the biblical calendar on pain of death. So, what is the Jewish nation to do? They decided to go back to the default position of letting the sun and the moon determine the calendar. If you know, the sun and the moon are beyond the manipulation of man. So Hillel II said, okay, we're going to go back to the sun and the moon. And with that, he was able to determine, because they knew astronomy, what the calendar should be for the next 2,000 years. And that's the one they've been using, and that's the one God has been using, because all the events we've been talking about are happening on that calendar. Many people, when they find out about the biblical calendar, they race to the internet to find out, wow, this is so significant, we got to be on it. And on the internet, there's all kinds of people out there that will take you off of the calendar God wants. They want you to follow their leader. They want you to let him determine for you, based on when he sees the new moon, when to start the calendar. But he has no authority. I am not a policeman. I am a pastor. Now, if I don't like the way people are driving, can I go and put on a police uniform, paint my car to look like a police car, go to the library, check out the law books for the state of Washington? Does that allow me to go around arresting people? Of course not. I would go to jail for impersonating an officer. Well, it's the same thing. These people, they can't put on a tallit and a kippah and carry the Bible, the Torah around, and think that gives them the authority to declare when the calendar begins. I don't control the calendar. I'm not saying I'm the one in authority of the calendar. You want to follow the calendar that the Jewish people use because that is the one that God is using.